Welcome to today's webinar, Dubai Municipality Modernized its Data Centers with Big Cloud Fabric. My name is Judy Ash, and I'm the head of corporate marketing here at Big Switch, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. As we go through the presentation, please feel free to ask questions using your Q&A box on the webinar dashboard. If you're watching this video in a rebroadcast or an on-demand recording, and you have questions on this webinar or an upcoming topic you'd like to ask our panelists, just go to bigswitch.com/webinars and submit a question using the link provided. We've also provided you great handouts for today's session. You'll see two. One is the case study for Dubai Municipality, and the other is for our Big Switch Labs environment instructions on how to get access to that. We'll tell you more about that later. Let me get right through to it and introduce our speakers for today. From Big Switch, we have our Director of Worldwide Systems Engineering, Syed Gayer, and it is our pleasure and honor to have the Head of Projects and Data Center Manager for IT Infrastructure from Dubai Municipality, Ahmad Mohammed Darwish Ali Alamade, joining us today from Dubai. And so we welcome him. We are very excited to hear all about the project that you've led. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Syed to take us forward.
Thanks, Judy. So today, agenda would be like we will discuss quickly around data center transformation and how the next generation data centers are looking, and then we will quickly move into the crux of the discussion today, which will be the journey of Dubai Municipality around the data center modernization and giving the background and also looking at what were the criteria around the selection, and we will discuss more with Ahmed around it. And we'll end up by taking some questions from the people joining today on the webinar. So if we look at the data centers today and see how things are evolving, so it's all about consolidation and looking at software-defined data centers. What it means essentially, the three key pillars around compute, network, and storage, it's all about resources and abstraction of utilizing those resources. So essentially, you have a pool of resources around network, compute, and storage, and you consume those as you deploy all these applications. You want to be cost effective, and at the same time, you want to be faster and get your applications running in production as soon as possible. And if you look at the networking, what's the traditional networking looks like today? You see box by box running all these different protocols, and for everything you need to do is go and change and enable every access. If you want to deploy an application, you go ahead and provision L2 VLANs, looking at spanning tree for L2 access, L3 aggregation, converging between the boxes, creating routes, adding firewall policies. All this is a manual process, and just to deploy an application, then you translate that into what needs to be done on the networking side, and it takes time. And when you look at software-defined data centers, the network becomes a barrier to the modernization which the customers are looking at in deploying their applications faster and in a scale-out model. A good analogy will be like if we see networking transformation from just being feature-based, turning on all these features box by box, to more like intent-based and then the knowledge base. So the comparison would be around the car industry. You have this manual gear car where you are shifting the gears all the times and trying to keep up with the pace and mapping the pace to the gear versus just auto transmission, where you simply put it on drive and then you steer where you want to go. And then the evolution, which we are looking at now, is the self-driving machines, where you just tell it the destination, and then it takes care of everything. And if we compare this with the networking of today, with box by box, you go and do configuration of each and every box to enable any application you want to deploy. It's brittle. Nothing has changed. It's been there since 90s. And moving to what we are offering with Big Cloud Fabric, it's intent-based. It's what do you want to do in your network? You look at the top-down approach where you're deploying these applications, and that should translate into network getting provision based on adding a new server, physical server, adding a VM, adding a container. What networking requirements are there for adding a VM or deploying an application? So that translates into enabling the network so that the application can be deployed quicker and faster. And that can evolve into the knowledge-based, where it's more around self-operating. And it's predictive, cloud-native. So all those things, like what's the best architecture to do that? So you can only evolve from intent-based to knowledge-based versus just looking at box by box and configuring each box to deploy an application. Another disruption which is happening around the networking is the software and hardware disaggregation. Just like in the mainframe time, if you go back a slide. Yes. If you look at the mainframe, it was more like proprietary stack. Your hardware and software was together, expensive, complex, and doing only certain things. And then the disaggregation happened around x86, where you have the commodity components, and it's all about the software. Similar disruption is happening on the networking side, where from the integrated stack of software and hardware is changing into commodity components, where you can pick your own hardware, and then it's all about the network, the software, where you can go ahead and add more features much faster, and then the customer has the choice of picking what hardware he needs and then what networking software he wants to select on top of it. And talking about the next generation architecture and how this disaggregation with Big Switch and open hardware, overall, there is a ACG third-party research which is available for you to download. Even you can download it from our website. Essentially, they did the research, and it comes out that deploying any application is much faster, 4 times faster. Overall, the cost of ownership, not only talking about the CapEx, but OpEx as well, has improved drastically. You can deploy things faster, you can upgrade things faster, and even the troubleshooting has improved, because overall we are looking at one logical entity to troubleshoot. We are not talking about box by box troubleshooting. We are not talking about box by box upgrade. We are not talking about the box by box configuration. It becomes one logical entity or one logical chassis architecture, which gives you, as if you are just troubleshooting one box, if you are just upgrading one box, and you are deploying application on top of one box. With that, we move into our next section, which is around Dubai Municipality project. And Ahmad, you still there?
Hello. Hi, Sid.
Hey. First of all, thanks for joining the webinar. And now we will move into talking about the Dubai Municipality project around the data center transformation.
Firstly, thank you for having me.
Yeah. go ahead, tell us about the vision and or the project about Dubai Municipality in general.
Well, to begin with, firstly, thanks for having me, and I hope my voice is clear. Before actually talking about the vision, I would like to shed light on what or who is Dubai Municipality and what we do. Well, Dubai Municipality was founded in 1954 with only 7 employees, by the way, taking simple tasks such as cleaning the city. Dubai Municipality passed a series of evolutionary stages through the years since then, and has multiplied itself in many ways. And with the growth of our emirate, Dubai, it has reached up to 11,000 employees working across 35 departments under 6 sectors, such as the international affairs and partnership sector, the health, environment, and the corporate support, and so forth. Dubai Municipality is regarded as one of the largest governmental institutions in terms of services and the projects that it has executed, making us the leading driver of growth and evolution within the Emirate of Dubai. Simply put, our vision is to develop a happy and sustainable city with the mission of planning, developing, and managing an excellent city that provides the essence of success and sustainable living. So you might ask, in terms of our vision, or why did we decide to go for SDN or such infrastructure? But I won't go into traditional answers such as saving costs or simplifying infrastructure or having better performance, even though these were one of the main drivers. But there is a much superior reasoning behind the selection of this product. And to answer that, it's very simple. Our goal is to support the vision of our leaders. Sheikh Mohammed, our ruler of Dubai, Vice President and the Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates, inspired a vision that is limitless, yet surprisingly very simple. He said he wants to make Dubai the happiest city on earth. And so, because of this vision, this brought along an initiative which is called Smart Dubai, with the mission of creating happiness by embracing technology as an innovation, or true innovation, making Dubai the most efficient, seamless, safe, and also creating impactful experiences for its residents and visitors. And he also said,
yeah, when you visit Dubai, you definitely see that how clean and how nice city it is. And every time you go to that city, it's something new.
Correct. And thank you for pointing that out. Exactly, it's like that. And so His Highness Sheikh Mohammed also said, quoting, "Our aim is not to have the most data, but to unleash the greatest value from data, creating new opportunities and improved experiences for all." And of course, understanding this vision, we had to put an objective together. And this, one of the objectives was our data center project.
So on the data center project, like what were the key objectives and around adopting new technologies?
Well, Dubai's infrastructure is growing. It's growing extremely fast, and it's extremely fast-growing city. And the demands in terms of IT, they're becoming challenging. They're becoming very challenging. And this is where we needed to have a smart infrastructure to accommodate for all the current and also the future projects or initiatives. For example, a few that we have in the pipeline is the IoT, the big data, the blockchain projects, and so forth. Whereas previously, the Dubai Municipality built their infrastructure on a traditional model, which was completely normal at the time, given the available technologies. And over the years, the multiple projects created silos of different systems running on different platforms or even different networking protocols. Today, projects are moving fast. If you let me to rephrase that, it's actually moving extremely fast, requiring executions in a matter of days to a few weeks, where even a month is a very long time for us. And from these, we came to understanding the requirements, and we had objectives added to this data center project To begin with, our first point was to become completely operational on SDN technology, which I will elaborate further on into the slides. The second point was, now that we know that data is the future, and it really is going to be the future, some people even call it that it's going to be the oil of tomorrow. We are required to, so what we needed was to obtain enhanced visibility and control as well for security purposes. So security was also an element into the objective. And then third was moving everything to a virtualized environment. You know already the value of the virtualized environment. So moving everything to a virtual environment and automating the virtual workload through the vSphere would have given us, or is giving us, extremely fast provisioning and deployment. And of course, coming to the point of reducing costs, improving operation, and overall improvement of the performance. An example I can give you was our old data center had only 24 10 gig ports. Well, 12 of them were redundancy, so imagine 12 10 gig ports. And everything else was on 1 gig. So our requirement was to make it extremely fast for everyone. And the most important thing for us was avoiding vendor lock-in. Now, vendor lock-in is a very critical topic of its own, and we just did not like getting cornered by the big names. Now, of course, cornering has its own problems, whether it's financial or whatever it is. So we just wanted not to get vendor locked in, and we wanted to run on something which we called at that time bare metal. So this brought on the requirements for the data center.
Right.
Now, for us, and also for the many from the IT, would understand that the IT infrastructure is the backbone of everything, such as the business services, applications, and so forth. And one of the main objectives was to move away from focusing from the infrastructure and redirecting, whether it's resources or whatever it is, to the front end, which is our service delivery, applications, and doing much more for our customers, which is both internal and external customers. We have more than 390 services running, which is one of the we are one of the most service providing entity over here at the moment. So let me put this into perspective or give you an example. Now imagine your infrastructure as a network of roads. Now it doesn't matter if you were driving a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, or a bus. If the road or your GPS route is not designed correctly, and you ending up at multiple junctions or taking too many turns, all of you will be delayed or even stuck. My point is, even with the best service or application, if your infrastructure does not perform, and that application would lose its value if it's not delivered on time or performing well. So what we were looking for was a simple solution to manage, operate, troubleshoot the infrastructure. Moreover, reducing infrastructure's complexity, especially when we were dealing with multiple data centers. So we wanted a model that would grow and shrink on demand without the efforts of the infrastructure teams. So to grow or shrink whenever we required without the headache, whether it's financial, whether it's technical, and so on. And at the same time, when we were studying the SDNs, integration was a very big factor for us. We didn't just want a software-defined network. That everyone has that. Everyone knows about that. But for us, the value was the next level, which was the integration, bringing the virtual environment, the networking of the virtual environment, all the way up to the fabric. So when we were doing this project, we were deciding whether for our long-term future we would be going whether VMware-based or OpenStack or containers or whatever. So we were trying to find a technology that could easily accommodate either for all, which at that time it was very difficult, or at least the major platforms without requiring reinvestment or even changing the complete infrastructure. And if you would go back to a previous slide, and of course, completely making sure it's loop-free environment, as this was one of the serious issues with our traditional networking. So we just wanted to completely eliminate this. And to top that off, we wanted the data center to be completely or as fault tolerant as possible, because we already had designed and created a high-end tier 3 data center with redundancy now ranging from power, rack, and the only thing which was missing was the networking component. Now, we wanted to ensure that the redundancies was more than what was traditionally available, which was usually around to 2 switches or to 2 ports, which is what, after a lot of research into the market, we came across to Big Switch and why we selected Big Switch.
Yeah, that's my favorite question. Why did you select Big Switch and Big Cloud Fabric here?
Well, honestly speaking, Sayed, choosing Big Switch for us was a very big risk, but I would say calculated risk. We were the first to bring into the region. So being first always has its risk, but there is a lot of good sides to it, and it was a calculated risk. Now, the first thing here we say, if you want to be innovative, if you want to be ahead of people, if you want to do something, you have to literally think outside the box. And outside the box is usually where technology is getting created. Now, whether that's Silicon Valley, whether it's in Lausanne, where technology is getting built. So you have to get out of that comfort zone and select a technology that is not there on the ground. So for us, the first thing and the first reason we took Big Switch was the fact that it was running on bare metal. And today, switches is just a commodity. So why would you want to get yourself locked to a vendor where they have their software running on top of this, on top of their own hardware? This together is a recipe of getting locked, and of course, you know what's the consequences of getting cornered. So this was one of the main reasons. Today, the switches might cost ABC. Tomorrow, it's going to reduce. It's a commodity. Or tomorrow, a new switch comes up which can support, let's say, 25 gig, 50 gig. I don't need to change the whole infrastructure. I just get a new switch of the new kind and just connect it to my fabric, and that's it. So for me, I needed that flexibility. We needed that. We needed to know that we're not going to get cornered at any time. So this was one of the factors. And then on top of that, the Big Switch was simple. It's very simple. Now, if you honestly ask me, if I had to go back to university, I'm a fresh graduate, by the way, maybe 2 years from graduation. If I had to go back to university and study networking, I will not go studying on the big names that I studied on, because literally Big Switch, the GUI is so straightforward that it will literally teach you networking in such a short amount of time, rather than going through CLIs, learning the CLI, the language itself. You need to get the knowledge of that vendor's commands, and all of this would have made my life easier if I just had a GUI based, and then later in life, once I wanted to get to know the system, would have gone into CLI. It was very simple, basically. So this was another reason. It was very simple to use. And then on top of that, we had data centers, not one, not two, three. A while ago, I would say we also had 4. And connecting these data centers today, if you speak to anyone, it's not easy. Whereas in Big Switch, after we did our research and our own research and development lab, when we tested it and studied it, it was all a matter of connecting 2 switches together from across the city. We have our own dark fiber, so we just connected them directly together, and in a matter of a click, the interpod was up. Like literally, it was up and running. So we needed simplicity of connecting all the data centers together. And on top of that, we needed a single pane of glass. It was very easy to manage all the data centers without requiring to configure switches separately. Now, today in traditional network, you get a new switch, get ready to configure that new switch, and then reconfigure the core, and then reconfigure something else to get it up and running. I'm talking about days to get things up and running. But today, I just connect that switch. There is something, I think, if I remember properly, zero-touch, yeah, it's written there, zero-touch fabric. So all I have to do is just put the MAC address or the serial number of the switch, which is on the box, and once I connect to it, automatically it goes to the right place, it gets itself configured, and it's up and running. For us today, how fast we bring up a switch is how fast you can actually mount it into the rack. So we just wanted something to, as I said earlier, we do not want to focus on infrastructure. We're done with that days where everything is blaming network. Oh, networks takes this much time. It's always stuck with the networking team. It's a technical thing. We just wanted to get rid of that. So we came to the next point. I come to the next point, which is the visibility. Now, we wanted at the same time of having this technology now, Big Switch, from at the time when we were studying it, we had the complete visibility. When we looked at it, we knew what port is connected to what is that port's name, what's that VLAN's name, and we had the complete visibility of everything from that single plane of dashboard. So today, if anybody asks me, I don't know where my box is connected, okay, just give me what is your box's name, or what's the VLAN, or what's your MAC address, give me something, and I will tell you exactly where it is, what is it doing, and what is it connected to. So we needed that to make other teams stop blaming the networking team that it's a networking problem. Usually everything that happens is always the network's fault, no matter what it is. So we wanted to eliminate that problem as well, and that's what did it for us. And on top of that, with the projects that we have in the pipeline, we needed to make sure that the solution is highly redundant. Now, what I liked about Big Switch is the fact that each switch connects to 4 spines, and each switch itself connects to another partnering switch 2 times. So imagine in a properly designed scenario, even the chances of that switches or that component failing is, God knows, it's something really terrible has to happen for that to happen. But even if that happens in a properly designed scenario, due to the data center connectivity, and if you have a storage replication on across the virtual environments, that same box will be up and running in a matter of seconds in the second data center. And when you have such kind of technology or fabric, then there are amazing solutions out there that would add much more benefits to it, where even if your box fails, there is a solution which would take all those firewall rules and everything across to the other data center, which we have in place as well. And one thing which really helped us financially as well is that we did not need separate cabling restructures, whereas in a traditional you would have to have patch panels, I don't know, this and that and that. Here we just had to connect QSFP cables. We had the 30-meter ones. Each cable is 40 gig, so we connected 4 cables to each switch, which is up to 160 gig, and put it on top of the rack, and we don't need any other cabling. So this was a few of the reasons, main reasons that we went for Big Switch.
And one of the things, Ahmed, one of the things are around SDN adoption. Like people fear around automation, like you have to go ahead and do scripting yourself to do the automation. And how was your experience? Because this is another key element, which is like out of the box. Did you do any scripting yourself to get things going? Was that the case?
I can answer that question. If you go to the next slide, maybe I can explain it through that slide. I think that's the one with the pictures, maybe. Yeah. So let me give you a little brief history of myself. Maybe this will help the audience understand before I answer that question. As I said, I graduated about 2 years ago. So as a networking engineer, now for someone who's just graduated and just in the beginning of the career, being handed over such a big project, and I had other successes in other projects, but when I got this project, this was the biggest project that even the entity has seen in terms of IT. I was scared, honestly speaking. Software defined, this is something I never even heard of during my being in the university in the UK. I was scared, to be honest. I thought, wow, what is everyone talking about? Scripting, languages, this, that, I don't know, OpenStack. I was really afraid till I got to the US. This is where I started my training with you guys. And to be honest, there is no such thing as scripting involved here. Everything is out of the box for us. And this is what reassured me once I got back home. And the solution is very simple. Like I also stated earlier, if I had the chance to study it again from the beginning, I would do it instead of touching CLI. So I traveled to the US, I trained there for 2 weeks, and then I got back home. And within 3 days of getting back home, I started training my own team and setting up the R&D lab. I don't know if I cannot see that picture over here, by the way. There's supposed to be a picture of that. Yeah. So we set up an R&D lab where we did gap analysis, risk management, and also playing with the functionalities to know exactly what the solution had to deliver. And this is where those 3 days of training the team got everyone understanding what is SDN. It was that simple. And the beauty of the system, this was the beauty of that system. Today, I have 3 to 4 people who know Big Switch inside out. And if you remember at the beginning of the webinar, I mentioned that there were calculated risks that we had to take, being first in the Middle East, and that, of course, risks involved with that was the availability of Big Switch itself in the region and so forth. But because of how simple the technology was, our own people is handling the whole solution in-house. So what happened in our R&D lab, we set up the framework and the standards. We standardized all the protocols running in the data center, the VLAN naming convention, the cable coloring, and so forth. And so once this was done, the complete infrastructure was built in-house. I think you can see there me climbing the ladder. So we laid the cable, we installed the switch, and we got the whole backbone, especially that data center. I brought the whole system up myself with my own hands. And the beauty was that I had the controller at home. So all I did was take the controller home and design the whole, I can proudly say I designed the whole Dubai Municipality's data center from my own house. And then once that was done, I took the controller back to the data center and connected it. And once I connected it, it automatically picked up all the MAC addresses of the switches and configured all the switches right on spot. Within 30 minutes, that whole data center was up and running. But the picture you see there on the bottom is a greenfield. It was completely new data center. But the one on the top is what I would say it was a more fun to do, because what we did there was removing just the old core switch, but still maintaining our old top of the rack switches. So because we wanted to do a transitional change slowly. So we had a greenfield and we had a brownfield project. So
yeah,
basically,
that's a good information, considering like some people, when they look at SDN technology and putting a pod, they think it's more like a rip and replace. Good that you had the experience around greenfield and brownfield, where you connected to your existing data center and extended your L2 and L3 from your traditional to your SDN-based deployment, which was the big cloud fabric, and then you had the greenfield as well.
Correct. So the brownfield, it took me about, after getting back from the US, about a month to re-study my own infrastructure to see what was going on, and then taking all that information and then putting it into Big Switch. Once that information was there, it's just very simple networking information. You just needed to know the IPs, layer 3s, the connectivity, and that was all. Once this was up, when we went into the deployment, we did not expect the environment to be up and running in 30 minutes. Now, till today, my boss says, do not say 30 minutes because nobody's going to believe you. But honestly, 30 minutes, everything was up and running, and we spent the next 3 days testing the applications and the integrations to make sure everything was done, or everything is working properly. So my experience was, after that deployment, I just realized how much we had benefited from this technology and the other things that we can do around the technology. This is where the next part of the story came in, which was connecting all the 3 data centers together. We connected them through 20 gig interconnectivity, 10 gig and 10 gig, both active, which gave us something I did not at that time anticipate or calculate for. Now, moving VMs from data center to data center, now, the thing is, if you have storage replication going on underneath, moving VMs will be quite fast in a matter of seconds. But if you don't, what used to take us around 2.5 hours for around 500 gig, if I'm correct, it was around 500 gig, it would take around 2.5 hours. Today, that can be done in 7 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes. So the whole, and this was done after all the sites had Big Switch up and running. So that one-to-one connection from the data center really helped us in avoiding the migration costs, which I will get into as well later on. So with all of this came the next benefit, which was provisioning applications or services or workload, which usually would have taken us approximately 28 days due to technical factors. Now it takes around 2 to 3 days to a maximum a week, and this is mainly to administrative tasks or chain of approvals, which has nothing to do with the technical aspect anymore. Otherwise, we can have a virtual workload completely up and running in a matter of few minutes. So this was just a few experiences we had on the deployment side.
And also on the deployment side, you did 3 data centers. I remember when you came to the training, we had a discussion at that time. We were providing connectivity between the 2 data centers. And once we discussed everything with the engineering on how you want to roll out, like the support for 3 data centers, we came up with the hub and spoke topology. And now we support up to 8 connectivity to 8 data centers. And before, from training to deployment, you already had the software with that capability enabled. And that when you did the testing in-house, it was already in place. So that was a good experience around getting the feedback from the customer and then going into the deployment with the capability. And the beauty of hardware software disaggregation, like the feature velocity. So how fast we were able to turn around and provide you that capability, I believe that was a win-win situation for both of us.
Correct. I mean, definitely we appreciated that from Big Switch, and the fact that this adds to the point that I made, the calculated risk. Usually when you're, for us at least from our point of, or our perspective, when you're first to engage with a company, and as us being the first, this is one of the benefits which comes along, which, and I know it's not only us, you support others as well, but the response was really, really quick. Within a matter of weeks, we already had the functionality for the 3rd data center and connected everything together, which was, from a customer point of view, it's something rare to see nowadays.
No, awesome. And nice picture, by the way.
Yeah, that's the theme.
So now that you are in production for almost a year, like how's your experience on the production side, and how's your team looking at Big Switch, and compared to what you were doing traditionally versus now, what do you do?
So at this given point of time, since all the data centers are running Big Switch, first of all, when we standardize all the protocols, we don't have any more proprietary, everything is down to standards, LACP, active-active, active-passive. So everything has been simplified in terms of protocol, in terms of communication. Everything is connected in our main data center. Everything is connected one-to-one. You're connected directly to the fabric. There is no more traditional switches. So you're directly connected to the fabric. The speeds are very good. The performance is high. The latency between the data centers are under 0.1 millisecond. And on top of that, the networking team is now really engaged with other teams. It's everything that I've said. Everything is just what we anticipated for. So in terms of production-wise, everything is working as expected, as I mentioned earlier.
It's good to know. Yeah, it's good to know. Like the network team is now not wasting time on troubleshooting and provisioning. Rather, they are looking at the adjacent technologies and other groups like virtual networking and focused on how that comes into play with the whole data center, and also the security piece. Right, the security is key, and like breaking those silos and having time to do something beyond what they were doing day-to-day job. I think that's also critical, looking at deploying some technology which is simpler.
Correct. Now, let me put it this way. Now, you remember the example I gave you about the road, the Lambo, the junctions.
Yep.
Now,
so that was also interesting, by the way. I gave the example of car, and you gave the example of road. Carry on.
I just realized that, yeah. Well, I mean, think about it this way. Wouldn't it be nice to wake up in a new Bugatti every day? I know everyone's here thinking of the new Bugatti song. But honestly, imagine you wake up every day in a new Bugatti, and then you have a road of straight, let's say 10 lanes. I would say 10 because of 10 gig. and it's fully open for you to push the pedal to the middle, and you would directly reach your destination without having to hit multiple intersections, hops, or taking turns. One-to-one connectivity. Now, this is exactly what we have today. Every single port in our data center is 10 gig capable, and it connects directly to the fabric core. Eliminates our the multiple hop problems which we had with the traditional network. In traditional network, there's a lot of independencies with other switches. Something happens to that, then you know the whole drill. Today, we have the capacity and the performance for the many years to come, because we've only used 0.3% of the utilization of the fabric. So, I mean, this might raise the question that we may have oversized or overspent, but I'm here to tell you that these were actually the smallest boxes available that we could get, and they were actually at the fraction cost of the price of other networking vendors, where compared to the price they were planning to do it for one data center, we did it for 3 at a fraction of the cost. So I could talk a lot about what's going on in the production, but I thought these were the key elements that I really, till today, I'm happy that happened for us in the production.
Cool. And I guess from the VMware side, like the deployment of new virtual machines and the integration of how the server-side links are also coming up and detected without doing any server-side configuration. Once we have the VMware integration, I think that's also the benefits you are getting with our VMware integration and the deployment of VMs and the provisioning of the physical network by just when you deploy the VMs, what happens on the physical side is that gets auto-provisioned accordingly. I think those were the key benefits as well around the VMware and the big cloud fabric integration.
Yes, this was, like I said in the beginning, we were looking more than just software defined. We wanted to make sure it's integratable to what we were planning or what our vision is in the future. So what's happening today is the controller directly out of the box integrates to the vCenter to simplify and automate the application deployment. Now, again, the beauty, it's out of the box. Scripting and all of this, none of that. It's just put in your vCenter username, password, and just watch the magic happen. I mean, seriously, that's how easy it was for us. And with all the benefits that you just said, the auto lag, the layer 2 network automation configuration, and so forth. But not only that, I mean, if you have enough faith, like we had in our VMware engineers, the plugin that you created for the vSphere web client, it extends that visibility from the fabric to the VM admins, to their console. So they have the status of the VM network, the connectivity, and also the fabric configurations, which is mapped to their virtual networking. Now, the same tools that we had in the big switch fabric for the troubleshooting, such as the tests path, are also available to those administrators. Now, the biggest benefit we saw from this was this gave our network administrators and the VM administrators consistent view of each other's environments. And this eliminated that layer of troubleshooting between the virtual and the BCF once it was integrated together.
Yeah, you are spot on. That is exactly the benefit. Like you get the consistent visibility across the domains. Like VMware admin can get the visibility into the physical network, and the physical network admin can get the visibility into what's happening to the VM, since we get all that information from the vCenter and we provide that information for better visibility to the network admin.
Correct. Yes.
Yep.
And to be honest, the biggest yes, go ahead. Sorry, I think I interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
See, the biggest financial saving, I mean, this is what I really like to point out. The biggest financial saving after you have all the data centers connected, at least for us, when you have everything connected together, it reduced a cost of, we had a migration cost, I'm not going to say how much it was, but it reduced it by 90%. All that is remaining now is that 10%, which is the physical migration, which is the insurance, the shipping, the movement of those physical workload to the other data centers. Now, in previous, if you try to do that in a traditional data centers, the vendors this is the problem with vendors. They take advantage of that, where they with services like you have to do asset discovery, you need to do integration discovery, you have to do network and firewall policy discovery, redesign, etc., etc., etc. Now, for us, with a simple interpod connectivity that we did across all the three, within a few clicks and extending those VLANs, there was nothing to do. It's literally taking that box physically somewhere else, but logically it's still in that old data center. So in terms of saving, we did save a lot on that aspect of migration.
Like the benefits around OpEx saving, yeah, that's clearly visible in your production experience. And also you talked about like you wanted a platform which is ready to do more in the future. And so today you are doing the integration with the VMware, but on the same platform you can integrate with other orchestration tools as well. And that brings point to the next question here. What's next for Dubai Municipality? What are you looking at? What things you want to enhance in the existing network, and what you are looking at around monitoring as well?
Well, we have a lot of advanced projects in the pipeline, but the ones that which are stated here that I can share is integration of vSAN to the big switch, because we're using VxRail vSAN for the VDI, and having that on the big switch as well, giving us that visibility is it's a big plus for us as well. And for the projects, yes, VDI is a very, very important project which is coming. And as you know, VDI is very critical in terms of performance. If you want to keep the performance and people happy, then your infrastructure should support it. That's why we are not afraid of moving our complete employees even onto the VDI, because our infrastructure is ready for that. But not only that, when you do that, you need to ensure that you have the visibility on how things are running inside that data center now, whether it's in terms of security, in terms of troubleshooting, where this is where side by side we started the POC of the big monitoring fabric. In old, let's go back to the story of those the Bugatti, the Lamborghini on the road. If you wanted to monitor the old traditional data center, you're going to need to span every single switch. You're gonna need to have a separate infrastructure for monitoring if you wanted to do that. You need to put a camera on every single intersection, which for us it means switch. But now imagine if everyone already has their own dedicated line which goes through this one big intersection, which is huge, like I told you, 0.3% utilization. All we had to do was just click that button, which is Fabric Span. Literally, it's one button, and it would automatically send this down to the BMF. And from there, we can select, okay, we want to filter, we only want these traffic, or we want this, or we want only packet capture from this MAC address. Like, it's really, really customizable. So we did that, and we put our security tools connected to the BMF, and we sent all the Fabric Span across the data center to the security boxes, which was a big benefit to us, because today we have complete visibility of what goes in and out of the data center. And I would love to hear if anyone is able to do that without spending millions in a traditional data center. For us, it was just a matter of adding the BMF.
Yeah. So the quality of the Fabric Span is like you can just pick what traffic you want to deliver and not worried about where the traffic is coming from, because of having a single pane of glass compared to box by box, and then you go ahead and configure a span session on a particular box. Instead of that, you are looking at the entire fabric and doing the selection from the fabric and then delivering it to something like big monitoring fabric, where you collect the traffic and then you deliver it to your security tools or monitoring tools.
Yes. And let me add, the problem, if you try to do that in a traditional, even if you get to do that in a traditional, your box is either going to die or you don't have enough capacity to do it. That's the problem also in a 1 gig backbone. Remember in the beginning I said we had 1 gig backbones, so or only 10 gigs. You try that even in a traditional environment, your network is going to suffer. You can maybe span 1 or 2 segments, but here for us with 0.3% utilization of the fabric, you need to multiply my traffic or my workload at least to bring it up to 50–60% before you can kill that fabric. So this is the beauty of the BMF, or at least that option of the fabric span.
Cool.
Awesome.
So gentlemen, Ahmad, this has been a great conversation. We have a lot of interest from folks on the phone who are listening in. There's several great questions that have come in. We have about 10 minutes left in the webinar, so I'm going to take a couple questions. Note that if we don't get to your question, we will provide an answer for you, and of course the webinar will be available for on-demand play post. So you talked a lot about the deployment, the prep work, the smooth migration, great stats on before and after impact of the infrastructure implementation. Can you share a bit about the impact on the organization and how this new environment has affected cross-functional teams, team communications, sort of interoperation between people? What have you observed there, Ahmad?
I can definitely answer that question for you, but before I do that, I would like to take this opportunity. My IT director is actually here listening to this. I actually want to say it's because of our leaders and our management leadership that they have trust in their youth to handle such projects and to empower them that this was possible. And the management played an enormous role, especially my IT director, Mohammed Kajur, in allowing this, such kind of cultural change, I would call it. Because the answer to your question is, if you looked at traditional networks, the problem is, or traditional data centers, everyone is attached to their own box. This creates silos and a lot of issues. Now, with such projects that requires integrations, which needs readjustment, our people started automatically working together, wanting to learn such an incredible technology, because coming out of technical point of view, I mean, if you look at any of my colleagues' CVs today, just having the word software defined on their CV is an incredible plus for this region. So people were excited to work with such technology, to learn this technology, because for many this is a hype, or they think it's a myth. But in reality, we made it a reality. We showed that we could execute it, and we did. So people were excited to jump on this bandwagon to make this project a success, to prove that we have the capability, the innovation to support the future vision of our country. So people started working together. People today trust the IT more, and these are all because of multiple successful projects that we've had along the way, and Big Switch being the fundamental or the core behind all of that. I hope that has answered the question.
No, that's a great answer, and there's never an infrastructure project that doesn't impact the people that are working on the project and somehow benefit, either through what you've said in terms of learning or and expanding their own expertise, and not to mention just the reward in accomplishment of deploying something of such scale. So there's great pride that goes into that, and I think it's important to acknowledge it. I have one more question, and it's directed towards Syed. When we're talking about best-of-breed infrastructure or converged infrastructure, does the network we're talking about follow best-of-breed infrastructure or converged infrastructure practices? And it's more directed towards the open networks bare metal switches that you talked about, but I think the combination and how you saw best practices applied.
Absolutely. Like the fundamental of the converged infrastructure is all about abstracting the networking, like making network as pool of resources, and then utilizing or consuming that pool of resources. And the beauty of Big Cloud Fabric is that the abstraction has been done for you, so you are not doing any automation scripting out of the box. Rather, when you integrate like things like VMware or you integrate with OpenStack, then you are consuming the resources through that abstraction. And at the end of the day, it's all about VLANs and VRFs and L3 forwarding, which is standard for every box. It's the approach and changing by just configuring the links and making it VLANs and trunk ports. Rather look at application and how you want to deploy that application. And then network will be consumed accordingly.
Right.
So that's the approach which we have taken, and that's why it is more friendly to the next generation data centers.
Right, right. Very intent-based.
Yep, intent-based.
Versus step-by-step and box by box and port by port. It is intent-based and policy-based, which is a big transformation in terms of operations.
Like Ahmed was giving the analogy of the road, we gave the analogy of the car.
That's right.
That intent-based, right?
That's right. We are at the top of the hour. Lots more questions. Ahmad, thank you so much, and to your director, thank you for joining us today. We know it's in your evening, and certainly the discussion and the complete conversation about your deployment was excellent. Thank you. Lots of insights, and certainly there are more questions, so please go to info@bigswitch.com if you have more questions that you'd like us to follow up on. If you're interested in learning more about Big Switch solutions we talked about today, Big Cloud Fabric or Big Monitoring Fabric, head on over to our website, bigswitch.com. You can send us an email, as I said, info@bigswitch.com, or if you'd like one of our experts to contact you sooner, you can fill out the Contact Us form, and we'll have one of our representatives give you a call. We do like to make it easy for people to get started with our solutions, and there are several resources you can download or watch that give you a tour of our products and hands-on experience. With BSN Labs, Big Switch Labs, you can experience our SDN solutions firsthand from the comfort of your PC. You can join thousands of technologists who have learned about our products in the labs environment. It is free, it's online, you get real-time access to our SDN Fabric products. So please visit labs.bigswitch.com. You can register for access and be online in a matter of hours. All of our past webinars, including this one, will be posted online at bigswitch.com/webinars. Our next webinar is Wednesday, March 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific, and we'll be joined by A10 talking about next generation cyber defense for the DMZ. Watch your email for registration details. And with that, this concludes our presentation today, and thank you for joining us.